How's it going, Raider Nation? Welcome to the best Raiders podcast in the world. My name is Steven Michaels. This is the Raiders Daily. All right, so just want to let you guys in on an update. Because you have not heard the Raiders Daily podcast in a couple of weeks, I'm still on YouTube. If you go to Silver and Black Media, just type in the Raiders Weekly. I do a show every week, a video show on YouTube. So all of you guys who listen on Spotify, which is like 90% of you people, go on YouTube, type it in. You can watch me talk about the Raiders every single week with Phil Robertson and Willie. It's a great show. It's like an hour long. Go ahead, watch it. We'll actually have a show up tomorrow about this game. We'll be talking about this game and others. But for now, I'm going to take over this show, the Raiders Daily, and talk facts and talk about the Raiders saving their season yesterday against the Houston Texans as the Raiders beat up and pummel the Houston Texans and win 38-20 in a massacre in Vegas. The Raiders did what they needed to do, which I've been hoping they would do for the last couple of weeks, and that is use Josh Jacobs. Now, Josh Jacobs is the reason why this team beat the Houston Texans. Make no mistake about it, he is the workhorse of this team. Remember, when this season started, they told Josh Jacobs it would be running back by committee. They had Zamir White, Amir Abdullah, Brandon Bolden, all of these running backs. But guess what? None of them, they can't touch Josh Jacobs, because Josh Jacobs is playing like he did in his rookie year. Yes, in the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been very good, right? He's fumbling the ball a lot. He was injured a lot. Just really wasn't the same as he was in his rookie year. So far, this guy is at top 3 running back in the NFL right now. He is carrying the Raiders. When they can't get a passing game going at all, and sometimes they can't, you can rely on Josh Jacobs. This season, he's doing things that he did in rookie year, but even better this year. He's getting big chunk plays. He's breaking tackles. He's spinning to get extra yards. He is just moving the chains, making it third and manageable sometimes, picking up the first downs on third downs. He's doing a little bit of everything. Running, catching, and scoring touchdowns. And that's the biggest deal right there. Yesterday, Josh Jacobs went off. He had 20 carries, he had 143 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's why the Raiders won this game. Yes, they saved their season, but they gotta keep it going. I mean, just this one win is not going to get them out of the basement. They gotta keep on winning. The games they've lost since some of you guys have not heard me in a couple of weeks, because maybe you haven't found the Raiders Weekly on YouTube. But, again, I encourage you to go find the Raiders Weekly on Silver and Black Media on YouTube every week. And I talk about the Raiders every week. But, for the last couple of weeks, this team, they really put themselves in a big hole here. They really have. But yesterday was a must-win game. Kansas City was kind of a must-win game, right? They lost that game. Now, they have to win the next 4 games. They have to. And it started yesterday in Vegas against a Houston Texans team that is not very good. Let's not make no mistake about it, okay? Let's not pretend that, they're really good. It's just, their record's not that good. No. They're not a good team. The Raiders, on paper, have so much talent, they should beat that team by 60 points. They didn't do that because their defense, the Raiders' defense, they got to do something there, because there's no reason why David Mills should be able to throw off the Raiders like he did yesterday. There's just no need for it. Abram is just absolutely awful. I know the Raiders want to trade him. They should. I don't think any team wants him. That's the biggest problem. He's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. There's no point of having him out there if Harmon is better. You got a guy, way older than him that has better production. Gets a pick 6 yesterday, by the way. He played outstanding. Outstanding. Davis Mills, anyways, this guy, 28 for 41, 302 yards. Derek Carr, 21 for 27, 241 yards. Played pretty well. He missed a couple of guys that he just, in his reads, which has been a problem this season, scoping the field. Couple of times there's guys, throughout every game this season, wide open. He just does not see. I don't know why, but the Raiders, they did enough yesterday where they didn't have to worry about it. Josh Jacobs put the team on his shoulders, bulldoze right through the Texans to carry the Raiders to a 38-20 victory. And something the Raiders, like I said, needed desperately. They needed to beat the Texans to stay alive here, and that's exactly what they did. Even though Davis Mills, like I said, he was having his way at some points in this game with that Raiders secondary, and the Raiders did have a hard time at some points of this game stopping Dameon Pierce, and that's what we talked about on the Raiders Weekly on the Silver and Black Media on YouTube last week. I said the keys to the game were the Raiders had to stop the run. They had to stop Dameon Pierce. Because if they didn't, it would open up the play action. And the Raiders pretty much followed what I wanted them to do. Run Josh Jacobs. That will open up big plays down the field for Derek Carr. And that's what the Raiders did. Now, for some reason, they weren't throwing it deep down the field in this game, pretty much all the way, to the fourth quarter. I don't know how many big long passes Derek Carr had. I believe he ended up having 2. But there was opportunities out there. But either way, if they can get that defense fixed, this team, I'm telling you, is as good as any team in the NFL. They really are. The NFL right now, look around. Look at the NFL right now. They're just, these teams, none of these teams are really that good. They're really not. The Chargers, they lose yesterday. The Raiders, if you look at the AFC seeding, they're not far back at all. Right now, let's say the AFC seeding, just for the AFC. The Raiders are 11th at 2-4. The Chargers are 4-3. They're at number 7. So the Raiders have the Patriots in front of them, the Colts in front of them, the Bengals in front of them. The Raiders are probably better than all those teams. So that's why it's so important the Raiders continue to win. Now, it's not going to get any easier at all for the Silver and Black as they have to face the Saints next week. That's going to be a very tough game for the Raiders. Because the New Orleans Saints, even though they have Andy Dalton, they're not going to be scared to throw off the Raiders, especially with that terrible secondary. Nate Hobbs is on IR. He won't be back for, 4 more weeks here. So, the Raiders, hopefully they can figure something out because they got the Saints coming up next. That's going to be a big game in New Orleans. They have to figure a way to get a W there. Then they get the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's a game where, even though it's in Jacksonville, I think the Raiders can win that game. Then they get the Colts. The Colts are terrible. The Raiders should have no problem beating them. Then they get the Broncos. We all know they suck. The Raiders should have no problem beating the Broncos. Then they get Seattle. Seattle's not that great. They're really not. They should be able to beat them. Then they get the Chargers. And listen, the Chargers, like I said, they just lost against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks beat up the Chargers. So, 37-23, Seattle beat the Chargers. And now we're looking at the AFC West standings here. And the Raiders, like I said, they can climb right back into this thing. They really can. They can climb right back into this, but they gotta win. They have to win these games. These games they are supposed to win. Every game this season, the Raiders could have won. I mean, every game, what was it? 6 points or less they lost by. The Kansas City Chiefs game. If they just ran Josh Jacobs more in that game, if they gave him more carries, they win that football game. Without a doubt. So right now, as we stand, the Chiefs are 5-2. The Raiders have to find a way to catch up to them. They have to. Then you got the Chargers at 4-3. Chargers, like I said, are very overrated right now. I don't think that record's going to stay. Raiders at 2-4, and the Broncos fall at 2-5. Which means your Las Vegas Raiders are no longer in last place. No longer. No longer in last place. Denver falls to last place. The Raiders can climb right back into it. Like I said, the Chargers, they're weak right now. I mean, they're ready to just completely collapse. They got the Falcons coming up next. That's going to be a tough game for the Chargers. Then they got the 49ers. Then they got Kansas City. Then they got Arizona. Then they got the Raiders. The Chargers easily could lose 2 or 3 of those games. Easily. So the Raiders really need to pick things up here. They really need to pick things up. They started off really bad, losing terrible games, which they should have never have lost. Let's be honest. I mean, they lost games where, the Arizona game comes to mind. They were up 20-0 on the Arizona Cardinals and couldn't put them away. They scored 3 more points that entire 2 quarters. Pathetic. Like I said, Derek Carr, inaccurate. And his wide receivers, when he does put it on them, drops the football. Darren Waller's not helping any. This guy won't even get on the field. I see him at pregame warm-ups. He's running completely fine. I don't know why he's not on the field. Listen, dude. You just got paid. You're running fine out there in warm-ups. You can get in a uniform and play. That's the way I feel about it. But you got to catch the ball, too. But right now, you know what? If Darren Waller doesn't want to play, Foster Moreau will play. And he looked pretty good out there. I would like to see him get more targets. I like that Hunter Renfrow got a little more involved yesterday against the Texans. Hopefully he gets more involved as the season goes on. Just gave him an extension. I know he's a great route runner. I know this guy can be a game wrecker. I know he can. Now, I think some of this comes down to play calling. I think Josh McDaniels, I'm not really high on. But if he can get better in play calling, the Raiders can beat pretty much anyone. And if Josh Jacobs is running like this, I'm telling you, the Raiders can be very dangerous. The only thing the Raiders have to do is get better on defense. Chandler Jones doesn't do that much. I think he finally got his first sack yesterday. But, he doesn't do anything. They paid him a lot of money to get sacks. I know coaches will tell you, oh, well, he's doing a lot of these little things that we see on tape that fans don't see. They're lying to you, okay? They're lying to you. They paid Chandler Jones to get sacks. Just like Max Crosby does, that's what they pay Chandler Jones to do. So he's got to step it up. Because these quarterbacks can't have all day to throw the football. They can't. The Raiders don't have the secondary for that. They just do not have the secondary to hang with fast guys, especially when they play against teams that have a lot of speed. They'll get destroyed. They'll get killed. You've seen against the Chiefs game. Patrick Mahomes, when he has that much time to throw, he's going to beat you. He's going to find Travis Kelce. Plus, the Raiders secondary, they're not big guys. They're all smaller guys. So, if you notice, against the Texans, they were going to Nico Collins a lot, which, if you watch the Raiders Weekly on YouTube, I talked about that last week before the game for the preview show. Nico Collins, any bigger receiver, is going to be a matchup nightmare for the Raiders secondary. Because the Raiders secondary, they're pretty much not big guys at all. And opposing teams see that on tape. I mean, I see it. It's very noticeable. You're going to want to exploit those smaller guys, and that's what these teams are doing. They see Travis Kelce just run all over them. Obviously, you're going to throw Nico Collins. When he got injured, the Texans' offense really started to stall. Davis Mills suddenly didn't have a good target, so he started throwing to his tight end. But when Nico Collins got hurt, the Raiders really took advantage of that. And, I mean, listen, sometimes you need a little bit of luck. And the Raiders got it when Nico Collins went down. Because that was Davis Mills. He was looking at that guy all game. He gets hurt. And the Raiders, they take advantage on that, and they pound it. And on offense, like I said, simple formula. Hand it off to Josh Jacobs. Think about it. This guy's not just getting 100-yard games here. 143 Jacobs runs for. 143. And we knew going into this game, the Houston Texans were one of the worst run defenses in the entire NFL. And the Raiders, to Josh McDaniels' credit, knew that, utilized that, let Josh Jacobs run all over them, and ran for a victory. And the defense, like I said, Harmon comes up with that huge play, the interception, to really seal the game. So, that's what the Raiders really need is turnovers on defense. That was huge right there. That put the game away, because other than that, like I said, the secondary was kind of getting beat up by Davis Mills. These guys were having no problem catching footballs off them. No problem at all. Jordan Akins had 3 catches for 68 yards. The other guy, I think they're tight end there, 5 catches. The other tight end, 5 catches, 54 yards. Brandon Cooks, 4 catches, 46 yards. Before Nico Collins got hurt, he had 3 catches for 33 yards. He was averaging like 11 yards a catch. Philip Dorsett, 2 catches, 45 yards. These are all big chunk plays too. They're all big targets, big throws. One for 39, one for 23, one for 24, one for 25. All like down the field throws. Whereas the Raiders, Devontae Adams, his longest pass is 16 yards. Hunter Renfro's was 27. Mac Hollins had a 26-yarder. And Foster Moreau had a 17-yard. So as you can see, the Raiders were not really throwing it down the field that much at all. Now you can say, oh, the Texans were taking that away from them, but they really weren't. They really weren't, to be honest with you. I think it's more Derek Carr's not trusting the offensive line very much. Now I get it. They are kind of a makeshift O-line, but he does have time to throw. And when your running back is running like that, like Josh Jacobs is, the play action will be there. So you got to trust your protection. You got to get your eyes down the field, and you got to make those throws. Especially now. The Raiders got to go on a win streak here, guys. They have to. They got to start stacking the W's to get right back into this. And I think the Raiders can get right back into this thing. I really do. I feel like the Raiders are way better than what their record says. Like I said, they lost all these games by 6 points or less. And now they're 2-4. And, they can get right back into this. The Saints, it's going to be a tough game. But it's a must-win game. The Jacksonville game, after that, that's a must-win game. And that's a game the Raiders should easily win. Then you got the Colts, and that game's in Las Vegas. That's a must-win game. The Broncos, must-win game. That's an AFC West game too. That's a must-win game. They got to win at least the next 4 games. They got to. You know what I mean? They got to work on, first of all, getting to 4-4. That's the biggest, most important thing. Work on winning the next 2 games. Get to 500. You can wipe the slate clean right there and start building off of that. I think the goal right now, to be honest with you, is to get to 10 wins. maybe 11. I mean, if the Raiders get hot enough, maybe they can get the KC. But right now, I don't know. KC might be a little bit too good. Might be too hard to catch. So you might have to look for a wild card spot, which is going to be hard because, like I said, the whole AFC is crowded with teams that, are not better than the Raiders by any means. They all have, weird record, 2 losses or 3 losses. The Raiders are right there. They are right there. And if they can get that secondary ready to go and get a pass rush, I think the offense will start to open up. And once that offense opens up, we'll know. We will know. Josh Jacobs is already doing his job. Once Derek Carr and the receivers start clicking, this offense will be the most explosive offense in the NFL. They will be a dangerous team. If Jacobs is running for 144 yards and Derek Carr starts throwing the ball down the field, they're going to be a hard team to defeat. But they got to execute. They can't have stupid penalties. They can't be in 3rd and longs. That's what's been killing them so far this season. 3rd and longs, penalties, just dumb, stupid stuff. And they got to play for 4 quarters. If the Raiders can do that, they can beat anyone in the NFL, I promise you. I promise you. Play for 4 quarters. Execute. Limit the penalties. Don't have 3rd and 15. Have 3rd and manageable. You have your running back. One of the best running backs in the NFL that I'm sure the Raiders are going to give an extension to any day now. I mean, there's no way they're letting him go into free agency. Pay him. Let him be your bell cow. Hopefully he stays healthy. He has to stay healthy. And the Raiders can beat anyone in a National Football League. All right, everyone, that's it for me. Remember, tomorrow, go on YouTube. Type in the Raiders Weekly. You will see my video show with Phil Robinson and Willie. We'll be talking about this Texan game and a whole bunch more. So go check that out, everyone. My name is Stephen Michaels. I am the voice of the voiceless for Raider Nation. This is the Raiders Daily.